All right, we are coming up on 9:30 on a Thursday morning. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Jane Monreal. We want to switch from the House session right now to a Senate panel because they are getting ready to vote on federal judge nomination for Emil Bove, who defended President Trump. We are expecting potential heated discussion this morning. So let's go ahead and listen in here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
There's no scandal here. Government lawyers aggressively litigating and interpreting court orders isn't misconduct. It's what lawyers do all the time. Concerningly, the minority repeatedly recast discussions of litigation strategy. Now, they crafted litigation strategy as wrongdoing. Even discussions that reflected the government's official litigation positions, some of which prevailed on appeal. These documents then give no reason to delay this nomination. So let's stick to the facts. The whistleblower alleges misconduct, but 10 days after the key event he described, he signed a brief stating, without qualifications, that, quote, the government has complied with the court orders in this case, end of quote. If he believed the department defied court orders, why sign a brief as an officer of the court saying that it had complied? During the hearing, Mr. Bove firmly denied the allegations. He testified under oath, quote, I did not advise any Justice Department attorney to violate court orders, end of quote. Recent public reporting backs this account, his account as well. I'd like to enter into the record, and I have it right here. Months before the whistleblower came forward, his former supervisor wrote in a letter that Mr. Bove advised, quote, advised our team that we must avoid a court order holding an upcoming operation to implement the act at all costs, end of quote. This statement confirms Mr. Bove advised his team to avoid triggering a court order, not defy one, and that's consistent with his testimony. My staff has also interviewed multiple people who were present for the March 14th meeting described in the whistleblower disclosure. Now we have 4 separate people other than Mr. Bove who were present in the meeting telling us the following. There was never any directive to ignore a court order, and each of them left the meeting with the understanding that the Justice Department would aggressively litigate but would follow court orders. To my Democratic colleagues then, you've been accusing each of President nominees of insufficiently respecting the court. I have a few questions. Where was the outrage when Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez said in response to a decision about abortion drug access, quote, I believe the Biden administration should ignore this ruling, end of quote. Where was the indignation when Senator Wyden took to the Senate floor and said, quote, there are moments in history where Americans and their leaders must look at circumstances like this one and say enough. Not let's see how the appeals process plays out, or let's hope Congress can fix this down the road. Just enough. President Biden and the FDA must ignore it, end of quote. Where was the outcry a few weeks ago when Biden appointed Judge Brian Murphy flatly defied a Supreme Court ruling, or when Justice Tolwani ordered the executive branch to violate federal law and spend taxpayers' money in defiance of a law passed by both houses of Congress and signed by the president. And when it comes from their side, just as I've indicated, there's silence. No press releases, no hearings, no letters. So what does that add up to? A double standard, undermining their latest partisan attacks against Mr. Bove. This Congress alone, Democrats have sent at least 26 letters to 17 agencies or parties demanding records, delays, or investigations into President Trump's nominees. I'm holding them right here in a stack of letters that I've held up already, like clockwork. Just before hearing or a vote, we get another breathless accusation that one of President Trump's nominees needs further investigation. We've seen the slanted stories and reckless accusations before. We've been down this road. It's become routine, this Congress, but it is not new. We all remember what Democrats did to Justice Kavanaugh. As I said during Director Patel's nomination, quote, "This is becoming a pattern, and I will not facilitate a campaign to undermine the results of the election by delaying the consideration of nominees," end of quote. Mr. Bove has a strong legal background and has served his country honorably. He deserves fair treatment. The vicious partisan attacks and obstruction of nominees that we've seen from Democrats this Congress has to stop. One day, roles will reverse again, and my colleagues will want the same fairness for nominees of their president that they refuse to extend to President Trump's nominees. They should look around the corner and consider that day. Senator Durbin.
Mr. Chairman, the Trump administration's handling of the Jeffrey Epstein case is baffling. It's frustrating the American people, and it's exacerbating the mistrust in the Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. In February, Attorney General Bondi, 17 days into the job, said in a Fox News interview that the Epstein client list was, quote, "sitting on my desk right now to review," end of quote. The White House then staged a major media release of Epstein-related files on February 27th, including preparing binders for conservative influencers and commentators. However, the files released were largely already publicly available. There was nothing new. After intense blowback, Attorney General Bondi went back to Fox News, the mothership, and claimed that a whistleblower, quote, assured her there were more files, and that, quote, New York, Southern District of New York, was sitting on thousands of pages of documents. And she promised on Fox, and I quote, "We will get everything, and the country will see, quote, the full Epstein files." These are quotes from Attorney General Bondi voluntarily appearing on Fox News to explain the situation. For the next 4 months, the Department of Justice and the FBI were silent. What happened during that period? Well, we received information that Attorney General Bondi pressured the FBI to assign, now get this, approximately 1,000 agents in its Information Management Division and hundreds of additional agents from the New York field office to work 24-hour shifts to review and produce more documents on Epstein on an arbitrarily short deadline. These officials were told to, quote, flag any records in which President Trump was mentioned. But after this flurry of activity using tens of thousands of personnel hours in March, it took DOJ and FBI 3 additional months to produce no new documents, but rather an unsigned memorandum on July 7th finding that, quote, this systemic review revealed no incriminating client list. Naturally, after all of the public promises Attorney General Bondi has made, the public is really suspicious of her finding. This suspicion has been exacerbated by public reporting that FBI Director Patel and FBI Deputy Director Bongino disagree with Attorney General Bondi's handling of this matter. Public mistrust has been fed by other claims in the July 7th memorandum. This memorandum included links to surveillance video footage from outside Epstein's cell in the hours leading up to his death. The July 7th memorandum describes one of the videos released as full, raw footage, yet experts who analyzed it concluded the video was likely modified. The Trump administration has essentially created a new controversy rather than solving one. President Trump is not helping matters at all. Despite his administration continuing making promises about the transparency on Jeffrey Epstein and claims about the existence of records that have not been produced, he is currently telling the country the president is saying this is all, quote, a scam, close quote. Yesterday, President Trump posted on his personal social media site, and I quote, my past supporters have bought into this BS hook, line, and sinker. They haven't learned their lesson, and they probably never will. That's from the president's personal social media. This is the president talking about his own constituents who are concerned about claims his own campaign surrogates and administration have continually raised. President Trump and Attorney General Bondi are directly responsible for all this confusion and mistrust, and they need to be fully transparent, and they should release all of the documents for the public to review as quickly as possible. On another subject, I want to speak on the nomination of Emil Bove, who should not be seriously considered by the Senate for a lifetime appointment to the federal bench. Lifetime. He led this administration's embarrassing efforts to strike a corrupt bargain with New York City Mayor Eric Adams, and he has been trailed by a history of complaints, long predating his affiliation with President Trump, about his temperament, his poor judgment, and lack of candor before the court. Think of it. We're talking about a judge for life. Attorney General Bondi conveniently did not announce her plan to keep the Epstein files hidden until shortly after our opportunity to question Mr. Bove under oath about his involvement in this issue had passed. Given his role as principal deputy associate attorney general, it's hard to believe he wasn't involved in the Epstein cover-up. Senator Booker and I sent him follow-up questions to give him a chance to clear this up. Mr. Bove refused to respond, but that's not the only issue that's grown more pressing in recent days. Erez Ravini, a career Justice Department attorney who defended the first administration's immigration policies, filed a whistleblower complaint with my office ahead of Mr. Bove's hearing. The complaint recounted that Mr. Bove suggested Department of Justice might need to say, quote, F you to federal courts that issued orders that the administration opposed. Remarkably, Mr. Bove couldn't deny delivering this message. He simply said in questions that Senator Schiff and I propounded to him that he did not recall whether he had used that kind of explicit language. So I asked Mr. Ravini whether he could substantiate his claims. In response, Ravini provided text messages, email exchanges, and other documents corroborating his allegations that Mr. Bove had waxed poetic about violating court orders and spearheaded efforts to defy court orders and mislead federal courts. Mr. Chairman, despite your opening statement, this gentleman, this whistleblower, Mr. Ravini, has volunteered to appear under oath before this committee. We asked you to hold his hearing on this, Mr. Bove, until that opportunity was taken. and you decided not to. I think that's a mistake. If you question the veracity of Mr. Ravenni, he's ready to stand before you, raise his right hand, take an oath, and testify under oath. What more can you ask about credibility than that? And the Republicans refuse to even consider him. His attempts to account for actions have ranged from absurd to nonsensical. This is Mr. Bove. But one thing is clear. He has repeatedly excused the conduct of those violent January 6th criminals. Mr. Bove was the ringleader in an effort to punish federal prosecutors for putting January 6th offenders behind bars. I have this memo ordering their termination right here. Understand what we're talking about. You're a member of the Department of Justice staff. You're a prosecuting attorney. You're given an order to proceed with the prosecution of an individual. You do so. You execute it in a professional and legal way. What happened in this case is if it happened to be a January 6th insurrection mobster, you can be dismissed from the Department of Justice under President Trump. Think about what that says about our Department of Justice. Mr. Bove was the ringleader in an effort to punish these prosecutors, and in his memo he wrote that the prosecutions of January 6th offenders were, quote, a grave national injustice that's been perpetrated upon the American people. Not the conduct of the mobsters, the conduct of the Department of Justice attorneys who held these insurrectionists responsible for the damage that they did to our Capitol building and the threats to our government. These individuals desecrated our Capitol. Every member of this panel, virtually every member, some are new, every member of this panel who's been here for any period of time will never forget that day as long as they live. I respect this Capitol building as more than just a building. It is a symbol of who in the hell we are. And when these mobsters ran through it, rifled through our desk, posed for pictures, brought in Confederate flags, that was a sad moment in the history of the United States. You would never know it if you listen to Mr. Bove's recounting of what he believes happened. He has called this a grave national injustice that they would be held accountable for attacking police. Each of you walked into this hearing room today confident that you were safe and secure. And you know why? Because that gentleman sitting in the back of the room is risking his life to make sure that happens. And 100 plus did so on January 6th. Are we to take these policemen for granted? I think that's awful. These individuals, these mobsters, desecrated our Capitol and attacked law enforcement officers who keep us safe to this very moment. To excuse their behavior by claiming that punishing them is a quote, grave injustice is a disgusting insult to law enforcement officials who literally risk their lives to protect members of Congress, staff, and legitimate visitors to this hallowed building. Mr. Bove further insulted law enforcement by falsely claiming that, quote, heavy-handed.
You've been watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We will get you back out to that Senate panel hearing on the nomination for Emil Bove in just a few minutes. But